Welcome back to the 2 Minute Warning. Today I'm looking at the Cleveland Browns and determining why I think they can have a top 10 defense in the NFL for the 2021 NFL season. But before we get into that topic, question for those of you viewing, Browns fans especially, I want you to rank where you think this Browns defense is. Top 3, top 5, top 10, top half, bottom 10, whatever it is. Comment down below where you think this Browns defense ranks. And getting into the topic, I know some of you Browns fans are probably already saying, what do you mean top 10? We're immediate top 10. The arguments are we top 5. Slow your roll. This past year, the Browns defense was atrocious in the secondary. Myles Garrett was kind of alone in the defensive line and in the pass rush. You guys improved this year, and I think you're top 10, but top 5, there's some big names you got to climb over before you make that landmark. And I don't think it's impossible for them to do it. I think once we see them play on the football field and play together, we'll get a better look and be able to really determine who goes where among the defensive rankings. But I think on paper, top 10 is a perfect ranking for them right now. There's a lot of teams that could be in the top 10 defense in the NFL. I mean, the Buccaneers are a lock. I don't care what you say. JPP, Shaq Barrett, Devin White, Levante David, the Bucs are in there. Rams, yeah, they lost Brandon Staley and John Johnson, Troy Hill to your Browns team, but the star power between Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, and Leonard Floyd is just too much to not have them be a top 10 defense. And I guess I should go over the Browns real quick. You know, Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, it felt like they were alone last year, but now you added Sheldon Richardson. We had Sheldon Richardson, but added Malik Jackson and Takkarist McKinley. Now this is a lethal pass rush. In the secondary, Denzel Ward, you added John Johnson, a great safety and a great slot corner, and Troy Hill, and hopefully Gritty Williams will be healthy. So now both sides of the secondary, the defensive line and the secondary is going to be a lot better. Linebacker core I'm still a little concerned about, but overall this defense has gotten much better. But back to the big names they got to be around and be with amongst the NFL. Miami Dolphins, Bobby McCain, Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, Andrew Van Ginkel. That is a great defense that's greatly coached as well. And Brian Flores. Big brother Steelers. I think the Browns we could see take a step over the Steelers this year defensively. Yeah, they have their star power too, just like the Rams. They got T.J. Watt, Devin Bush, Cameron Hayward, Minka Fitzpatrick, Joe Hayden. That's a stacked unit. But Browns defense has gotten better. Steelers defense has gotten worse. Steelers have lost Bud Dupree, Steven Nelson, and Mike Hilton. Those aren't the bread and butter of the Steelers defense, but I think it's enough for the Browns to finally take a step over them this year. But like I said, on paper, you can't go wrong between who you choose between those two. We just have to see them play, and that will determine it. But I would not be surprised if this Browns steps over the Steelers defense this year. Another one that I like that definitely improved is the New England Patriots. And I'm at Judon, Devon Godshaw, Jalen Mills, getting Kyle Van Noy, and then after not sitting out in 2020, and they'll be here in 2021, getting Devin McCourty, Dante Hightower. And I think this could be a top 5 defense if Stephon Gilmore plays. But if that man is traded, they take a huge hit because Stephon Gilmore, last time he was healthy, won Defensive Player of the Year. He is an absolute unit on this unit that would just be, I'm not going to say the reason the Patriots would be a great defense, but a very key piece to that Patriots defense. So if he is traded away, I think this Browns team could take a step over the Patriots defense. But if he's there, that's going to be a tough argument. But more to go. Denver Broncos, they have made some good additions. Pass rush alone between Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, that alone is scary enough for any defense coached by a defensive-minded coach in Vic Fangio. Then in the secondary, they have executed this year, in my opinion, in their secondary, keeping Bryce Callaway, Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson, adding Ronald Darby, and Kyle Fuller, reuniting him with Vic Fangio. That is an absolute unit of a defense for this year. Long-term, a lot of those guys aren't on long-term deals, but for this year, that Broncos team is looking scary. Another one that's added a couple big names, the Giants, they re-signed Leonard Williams, pairing up with Dexter Lawrence again to make this pass rush get going. James Bradbury, we know he's a good number 1 corner, and they added Adoree Jackson along with Jabril Peppers and Logan Ryan. Giants are anything to mess around with by any means either. Niners, once they're healthy again, getting Nick Bosa back, Arik Armstead. They did lose Richard Sherman and Witherspoon, so that could be a spot the Browns jump over with them taking losses. You just had to look and determine whether or not the Browns are a top 10 defense, what they added and what the other top defenses lost, and is that enough to make a change amongst rankings? And I think, like I said, Steelers losing Bud Dupree, Mike Hilton, and Steven Nelson might be enough for the Browns to jump over them. I think the 49ers losing Sherman and Witherspoon might be enough for them to jump over them. And you could say, well, Sherman's nothing. He's old, he's 33, he's coming off an injury, he wasn't going to help him. But it's still an argument that you can make. And like I said, Patriots, they lose Stephon Gilmore. That's enough for the Browns, and adding John Johnson and Troy Hill for them to take a step forward. So I think all around, this Bucs team definitely makes this Browns team definitely makes a spot in the top 10. Top 5, I think that's tough to give them the crown right now. I mean, in the top 5, there's a bunch of teams. Bucs, Rams, I think those two are probably locks. Dolphins are pretty damn good. Colts, Darius Leonard, DeForest Buckner, Xavier Rhodes. If they re-sign Justin Houston, it's going to be hard for me to say the Browns top the Colts. But if they lose Justin Houston, like I said, that's another team. They lost a piece, but the Browns added pieces. We don't know. And the Browns right now, it seems like they're going to go, there's a 90% chance they go one of two ways. They either add Jadeveon Clowney or they use their first-round pick to pick up a defensive lineman. And to me, if you take this Browns team and add Jadeveon Clowney, now we're saying, is this a top 5 defense? Or if you get a Browns team that gets lucky in the first round and one of the top 3 defensive pass rushers like Kwity Paye, Jalen Phillips, or Gregory Rousseau fall to their pick, I don't think that's likely, but I definitely think it's possible. There's 3 top pass rushers, and the Browns have, the 25th, 26th, 27th pick, whatever it is. I think there's a good chance one of those guys fall. So going one of those 2 routes, this is a whole different conversation that we would be having about the Browns when you got a pass rush that has possibly Myles Garrett, Takkarist McKinley, and Jadeveon Clowney, or Myles Garrett, Takkarist McKinley, or Jalen Phillips, whoever it is, take your pick. That's a whole new conversation. Right now, I have them being in the top 10, but there is an argument. I mean, there's another team in the top 10, arguably LA Chargers, getting back a healthy Derwin James. Joey Bosa won't be all banged up. At re-signing Michael Davis, Chris Harris Jr. getting a defensive coordinator as your new head coach in Brandon Staley. He led the number 1 defense last year. He might be able to pull something together for the Chargers this year. It is not going to be easy for this Browns team to be top 5, but that's why this video is about top 10, because I think they right around fit in there in that 6 through 10 range. Another one, I think on paper, the Bears might have one of the best defensive teams in the NFL. Akeem Hicks, Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn, Danny Trevathan, Eddie Jackson leading the secondary. That is a great defense. However, they lost their defensive coordinator, Chuck Pagano. So a lot of these teams are taking losses. Like I said, the Steelers, the Colts, if they don't re-sign Justin Houston, the Bears lost their defensive coordinator. Rams did lose a couple pieces, but I just think the star power is going to be hard for them to jump them. But the Browns adding so much and so many teams losing so much, I think we can see these rankings fluctuate, and I definitely don't think it is a huge argument to put this Browns team in a top 10 defense in the NFL. We have to see it play out first. Is Takkarist McKinley going to be this guy that we want him to be, where he goes in and helps out the pass rush, and Myles Garrett's getting double teamed, but that allows Takkarist McKinley to easily win the one-on-one matchups or open up the middle of the floor pass rush between Malik Jackson and Sheldon Richardson. Maybe those guys could get a couple sacks, rack up a few numbers. And then in the secondary, they needed a safety. John Johnson was the answer. They needed a second corner to rely on. I don't know if Troy Hill is going to be that guy, but between him and Greedy Williams, I think one of them will step up and become the number 2, and then whoever's number 3, star-studded in my opinion when you're comparing them amongst number 3 corners. So in the Browns themselves, they're very well coached. They just had Coach of the Year Kevin Stefanski, and I just think this unit of players that were already there for a year, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, just having another year of Kevin Stefanski under their belt would get better themselves. This Browns team, I said it before, I think they're going to an AFC Championship, and today I think they got a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense, and I think as the season starts, they could easily become a top 5 offense and top 5 defense. We just have to see it click together first, see who they pick up in the draft, see what a few of the pieces fall in free agency. Like I said, Jadeveon Clowney, that would change this argument completely. Washington football team, that's another one. Chase Young, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Montez Sweat. They signed William Jackson. They have Landon Collins. They got Kendall Fuller. Ron Rivera is well coached as well. There's a lot of teams that fluctuate around this top 10 just to go through them. I got Steelers, Bucks, Rams, Colts, Dolphins, Patriots, Broncos, Washington, Giants, Bears, Niners, Chargers, and of course Browns. Those are all like 13 teams that someone has to jump someone to be top 10. Like I said, I think the Browns, they could jump the Niners, losing Sherman and Witherspoon. Bears is a tough one, but losing Chuck Pagano and having Andy Dalton on that offense, Bears defense is just going to be worn down completely. So on the field, I think we could see the Browns jump the Bears. Steelers, like I said, I think it's possible they could finally pass their big brother amongst all factors on the field, offense and defense. Patriots, if they lose Stephon Gilmore, I think that'll click. So there's a lot of openings, and I do think this Browns team is a top 10 defense, and I think they will be 100%. We just have to see a couple of those pieces click like we thought. Takkarist McKinley doesn't have to go out and lead the NFL in sacks by any means, but he just has to produce something to show us this is the Browns pass rush we always knew we could have. Just create production. Just give us something that we are expecting to see. And then in the secondary as well, you don't got to be the number one secondary in the NFL, but just show improvement and show we're not god-awful like we were last year, where we just couldn't hold up and go toe-to-toe with a, very tough receiving core such as a Kansas City Chiefs, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. Not to say they didn't hold their own in the playoffs, but you guys know what I mean. They weren't able to handle the top receiving cores in the NFL, but now it's a different secondary. Denzel Ward, he's definitely going to fill the number one corner position, and then John Johnson, Troy Hill, healthy Greedy Williams. This Browns team's top 10 defense, in my opinion. Hands down, they will jump someone, and they'll jump enough to be top 10. And like I said, if it clicks right away and they added Jadeveon Clowney or Jalen Phillips in the draft, we're making the argument top 5. But until then, top 10 is what I got. But like I said, comment down below your guys' thoughts. Where do you rank this Browns defense in the NFL today? To me, they're not top 5 yet. They're just not. Maybe once we play just even one game and I can see it, but on paper, they're just not top 5. I haven't seen enough to give them that ranking, but top 10, 100%. Like I said, comment down below your thoughts, and I always say it, but thanks. We really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for watching. 2 in the morning.